Running from the law is stressful enough, but you don't want to also have to worry about where you're going to get your wake-up juice if and when you catch a little sleep while on the run. Sparkplug coffee didn't exist in 1958, so they couldn't have helped Sidney Poitier and Tony Curtis on their flight from the fuzz, but they can certainly help you in the here and now. Sparkplug has the freshest Arabica beans in Canada, which are premium and fairly traded. They offer up decaf and half-calf too, so you can feel free to, sleep through the night and let the cops catch you after all. If you're a glutton to go back to working on a chain gang, that is. Well, it beats working for the government. I'm kidding. I work for the government. Okay, maybe I'm not entirely kidding. Anyway, Sparkplug offers all kinds of roasts, but they also provide a choice of rotating seasonal blends, so you can excite your tongue by putting a different flavor in your mouth from time to time. But maybe the best advice you'll hear all day, other than, don't let the man get you down, or let the man find you when you're on the lam for that matter, is to be a member of the Autopilot Coffee Club. You can customize your orders, so don't think this is some cruddy Coffee of the Month club. Members can also take advantage of deals and various perks that the casual customer isn't going to get. Members save money on every order as well. Join us, join us, join us. And the coolest thing of all is that you can save 20% on your very next order by going to sparkplug.coffee/HYES and using our Have You Ever Seen promo code, HYES. Yes, listening to Have You Ever Seen can save you money. Now keep in mind, people in Paris or friends in Frankfurt or pals in Pyongyang aren't going to be able to order any of this, but anyone in Canada and the United States can. And guess what? It'll take a week, or probably less, to get to you. Shipping in Canada is even free. I don't know what else I need to tell you. Go buy some. That website is sparkplug.coffee. Tell him Sidney, Tony, and Ryan sent you. Now Andrew Luther, he sent you too. Plunk those black keys and those white keys in equal measure on your keyboard and play that theme song. Action. Have you ever seen The Defiant Ones? I've ever seen it many times. I'm Charlie Potatoes, or is it mashed potatoes, maybe scallop potatoes, or Ryan Ellis. My wife Bev is off at work today, so I've got the task of analyzing this film all on my own. I'm not shackled to anybody, damn it. Well, not until she gets home, and then we can go to the bracelet station in our kitchen and click them in place. And you thought we had a boring marriage. This is the 485th edition of Have You Ever Seen, the podcast that's been reviewing classic movies every Monday for nearly 10 years, and as of the past few months, every other Friday as well. You might be asking why I'm here today, considering I posted an episode about Sherlock Jr. just 7 days ago. Geez, I thought it was every other Friday, Ryan. Well, it's Martin Luther King Day on Monday, for one thing, but also doing this show today allows me to stagger my end-of-the-week podcasting. Chris and I put up a new episode of Scoring at the Movies every other Thursday, so doing the Defiant Ones today means I'm posting my solo Friday shows on Scoring at the Movies is off weeks. So this black and white movie about black and white race relations was released going on 65 years ago by United Artists in late September 1958. This is the first time since we talked about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in September 2018 that we've reviewed, or in this case I've reviewed, a movie that came out in 1958. On that note, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof was one of the big hits that year, according to Wikipedia anyway. And in looking at Wiki's top 10 for the year, The Defiant Ones must not have been too far from making the top 10 as well. It grossed about $2.5 million on a budget of about 780,000 clams. That's how the movie did at the box office. How did it do critically? Well, 91% of Rotten Tomatoes critics liked The Defiant Ones, and 88% of audiences did too. 56 critics have reviewed it over the years, and their average is 7.7 out of 10. That 91% rating from the critics, by the way, makes this one of the 3 or 4 best-reviewed films in Sidney Poitier's long and distinguished career. Same goes for Curtis, who was getting plenty of raves in that era. Sweet Smell of Success, what a great film. Some like it hot, like it more and more as the years have gone on. Spartacus, like it less as the years have gone on. All did even better on the tomato meter than this film did. And they were all, of course, Stoney Curtis pictures. Stoney Curtis Flintstones. We've reviewed all of them, so scroll way back in our archives to hear those gabs. In fact, all 3 of those were AFI Top 100 movies, so they're way back in the archives. These 2 Defiant fellows won 2 Academy Awards. Nedrick Young and Harold Jacob Smith won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, while Sam Levitt got a trophy for his cinematography. Not only does the film look good, and Levitt and director Stanley Kramer came up with some clever shots, many clever shots, they also set up some great low-angled shots of the guys when they're running away. They don't overdo that, but they do it well. They also don't get too arty. I'm thinking of Hoffa. Danny DeVito shot that movie pretty well, but I think somebody said that he thought he invented certain shots because he used them so often. But Kramer and Levitt here don't do too much. It helps that Poitier and Curtis did a fair amount of their own stunts, so that allowed for relatively close shots of the guys in peril. As for the screenplay, Nedrick Young was blacklisted at the time, and they actually gave his Oscar to a fake person named Nathan E. Douglas. I like how the pseudonym has a middle initial. The Academy made amends and restored Young's name in 1993, but he died before knowing they had finally rectified this injustice. The blacklist was broken only a few years after this movie came out, too. Some say it was Otto Preminger who did that when he made Anatomy of a Murder in 1959. But the acknowledged blacklist breaker was Kirk Douglas' Spartacus, co-starring, of course, Tony Curtis, written by Dalton Trumbo, who until then had been blacklisted. The film was nominated for 7 more Academy Awards, although it didn't win any of these. Best Picture, Stanley Kramer was the only listed producer. Best Director, which was also Kramer's nod. Both Poitier and Curtis were up for Best Actor. Theodore Bikel, B-I-K-E-L, I think it's Bikel, was a nominee for Supporting Actor. Cara Williams was nominated for Supporting Actress, and the editing by Frederick Knudsen, K-N-U-D-T-S-O-N, was recognized with a nomination too. That one was as worthy as any of the 9 this film got, both for the brisk pace and also for the way Knudsen crosscuts between the journey of the 2 guys and the pursuit by the posse. It's not just the escaped cons who bicker and argue, incidentally. The posse does plenty of that too, maybe even more. This was Poitier's first of only 2 nominations ever for a Gold Naked Guy. Although he won the second time he was nominated for Lilies of the Field 5 years later. I considered covering that today instead, but this movie just has more cachet, and I own it on DVD. It was the non-anamorphic DVD, mind you, so I had to settle for that thing where you get the postage stamp shot, basically, right? It doesn't find either side of the screen or fill either side of the screen or the top and bottom. But at least the print wasn't too bad. It looked okay. I blew it up for a bit, but it was too much, so I just put it back down to that postage stamp thing. The Defiant Ones was 55th on the American Film Institute's Top 100 Cheers. I could see it being ranked higher than that even, but 55 is respectable. It's a Wonderful Life was ranked number 1. Too bad George Bailey and Mr. Potter, never spent any time shackled together like Cullen and Jackson do in this movie. Maybe those Bedford Fallsians could have worked it out and become friends too. The Ones was nominated for AFI's Top 100 Thrills, and both guys, as one entry, were nominated for the hero side of the Top 100 Heroes and Villains list. I'm not sure these guys are heroes, but okay. Survivors for sure. Gutsy. Finally, it was also up for the 1998 and 2007 AFI Top 100 lists. I wouldn't quite say this movie belonged on either one of those lists, but it had to have been relatively close, and it was certainly more worthy of some of the ones that Bev and I have covered in the past, including, of course, her favorite, Swing Time. No connection to the 2 movies, just the fact that's on the list, and this isn't. So what's my motivation for covering this? Because I've tried to have a hook for these Friday shows. My reasons were because it's MLK Day on Monday, and because Poitier and Curtis haven't come up in a while. Plus, this is a movie I've always liked quite a bit. I liked it more when I was younger and didn't mind the subtext that's pretty in your face the way I feel now. I feel differently about that kind of thing now. But I had a good time and got a lot out of seeing it a few days ago. Since my movie in a nutshell doesn't really tie into anything, let's just randomly do it right now. So, The Defiant Ones, in a nutshell, The Definite Ones. I've seen how badly some people spell, and you know they thought that was what this was called when they first saw the title on the page. Nutshell was pointless this time, wasn't it? All right, let's break it down. The film opens on a shot of a truck driving a bunch of prisoners in the pouring rain. Sidney Poitier plays Noah Cullen, who's singing in the back of the truck, mostly to amuse himself and to annoy all the white folks around him. He'll sing this same tune at almost the exact midpoint of the movie, and then again at the very end. Curiously, all the music in this film is played on radios, or it's Poitier singing. So the music is all diegetic, no orchestral score or anything like that. And I didn't really notice that till I read about that online going into this viewing, and then of course you can't not notice it when you read that. The first thing Tony Curtis, as John Joker Jackson, JJJ, says in the back of that truck includes the N-word, which is why Cullen jumps up and threatens to kill him. They're chained together, so if they had the chance to spread out and really hammer each other, that would have been interesting. My money would be on Poitier, I think. Not just because he's black. I think he was probably bigger and stronger. Their confined brawl helps to cause the truck to go off the road and end up in a ditch. The cops in the front were knocked out from the crash, and our 2 guys RUNNOFT'd, and no one else did? I guess the filmmakers just wanted the story to focus on a single, or double, manhunt, rather than spend any time on the other guys. I wonder if Halloween in 2018 was homaging this scene. Michael Myers escapes a prison bus in that film when it's run off the road, although most of the other convicts are just milling about. I think all of them are just there, and they get rounded up easily. And of course, there's a parallel to The Fugitive, too, when Harrison Ford escapes a prison bus that was about to get hit by a speeding train. He didn't kill his wife, and a certain man named Jones doesn't care. That movie might get reviewed this year, too, The Fugitive, either by myself or with Bev. It will be, I think. Back to the Defiant Ones. Someone in the posse asks why a white man was chained to a black man in the first place. After all, that kind of thing just wasn't done, especially in the Deep South. Well, probably not in the Deep North either. Sheriff Max Muller tells them that the warden has a sense of humor. Bikel plays Max, by the way, and his world-weary performance was pretty worthy of his Oscar nomination. Of course, that line about the warden doesn't answer the criticism that Robert Mitchum had, and why he turned down the chance to play Joker, when Mitchum said that he didn't believe the concept. Namely, that they wouldn't chain a white man to a black man in the segregated South. But there's also something satisfying about that answer of the warden has a sense of humor. It's a lazy excuse, but I'm picturing a dickhead warden who would laugh his ass off if he heard someone criticize him. You don't like it? I don't care. I'm the warden. I guess what's actually true is that the warden just wants to rile up the prisoners, never thinking that two of them could escape. And if they did, they'd end up killing each other soon after anyway. That's what someone says in the posse as well. Rather than live down to those expectations, though, the guys take turns pounding away with a rock on the unbreakable chain, but that does absolutely nothing. I guess that chain is like the one in King Kong. Chrome steel. During this, Joker calls Cullen boy, which isn't that much better than the other slurs black men so often hear. Joker wants to go south because he says it'll be easier, and he knows people there, but Cullen knows he'd be screwed if they went even further south. So Cullen gives an ultimatum that they go north, or nothing. I wonder what would happen if Joker stood his ground too. Somebody has to concede, or they just stand there pulling on the chain and ripping each other's shoulders out of their sockets until they were found by the cops. That actually might be a funny short. Maybe that's been done. This movie's been homaged and referenced in many properties over the years, TV and movies. Anyway, they walk through raging rapids and have to work together to keep from being washed away. This looked legitimately dangerous. I'm sure there were crew members just off camera ready to catch them if they got in trouble, but I don't think they had to act their caution and even fear in this scene. Curtis said they did a lot of their own stunts, and it looks like they generally did. It couldn't have been fun to play half the movie with a chain around your wrist. Their skin could have been torn open the same way Joker's is in this story, except the actors apparently have a cushion and padding and such in there. I didn't really notice that, but I did read that online. They do end up taking a Deliverance-esque body surf down the river for a while, but manage to scramble ashore. Cullen thanks Joker for pulling him out of the river, half of which he says he swallowed, but it's too early in the movie for actual niceties between these two, so Joker says he didn't pull Cullen out, he just kept Cullen from pulling him in. Working together, not killing each other. Back with the posse, Max is accused of not driving the men hard enough to find the fugitives, but he's right that the men and dogs need rest. After all, Joker and Cullen can't run forever either. Frogs are on the menu for our former chain gangers. Cigarettes are dessert. Delicious. Kramer shoots this very long take in one shot, and the two guys nail it. They also bond at least a little here, and we find out the Joker really envies rich people. He doesn't just want a better life. He desperately wants to be pampered and wealthy. Charlie Potatoes, as he puts it many times in the film. They argue about Joker's use of racist words, which Joker claims he doesn't mean to be offensive, but of course they are. You hear that all the time now, don't you? I didn't mean it to be offensive. You can call me honky, which is what he says here. They fall asleep cuddled up together and wake up during a driving rainstorm, clearly not wanting to touch each other once they wake up, but not just because of the racial differences. It's also because this is a movie with homosexual subtext, and there's no way either man would admit to feelings like that, even if they did have them. They dive into a pit to avoid being seen by a passing motorist, but it's wet and muddy down there, so climbing back up is nearly impossible. I like that they don't get out on the first or second try. They have to come up with a few plans before Joker climbs on Cullen's shoulders so he can reach up for a better grip. Joker's wrist has now become infected from all the friction from the chain. He's even shaking, which Cullen isn't, so that trembling is from more than just the cold rain. Dr. Cullen puts some nice cool mud on the infection and it seems to help. Noah is so new age. I guess maybe this could be, well, it can't be because the movie was 9 years later, but I'm going to say it was an homage to a movie that came later, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where he is a perfect, flawless doctor. The rain stops that night and the guys rest, even having a quiet heart-to-heart. Cullen reveals he's married and has a kid, but won't elaborate on that at first. Cullen also reveals he went to jail for defending his home, and he was sent up for assault and battery specifically. Of course, if a white man did what he did on his own property, he probably wouldn't have been in any trouble at all. Cullen does elaborate on his wife at this point now, saying that she always told him to be nice, even though he admits he's been angry his entire life. I think we know why. He's also bitter that his wife is teaching his son the same be nice lesson. Of course, this reminds me that black parents have to teach their kids how to behave around authority figures, especially cops. You have to wonder how many black people ever show the rest of us what they're really thinking. They live in a society that doesn't want to know what that is, and even now might put them in the ground for complaining too much. Necks might get kneeled on. Anyway, before skulking into a small town to find shelter, food, and/or a way to break that chain, Cullen tells Joker he's got to put mud on his face because his white skin glows like the moon. This isn't exactly blackface, and the black man is the one telling the white guy to apply that muddy makeup, but it's clearly a reference to those times when white men did dress up like black guys and put on a show. That makeup is not the most consistent, though, because Curtis is barely even dark after the initial shot where he smears all that mud on his honky cheeks. Incidentally, I said there's no music score, right? The scene where they quietly enter the town is quite tense, mostly because animals making noise acts as a music score. George Lucas did that during American Graffiti. He basically used sound effects where you typically use music, and used music where you typically use sound effects. That's not quite what Kramer did here, but it's something very similar, and of course Kramer did it many years before. The running men fall trying to enter a building, making a racket, which wakes up a bunch of people. They almost manage to get away for a few minutes, but they're outnumbered and caught. Because they whacked a guy in the head during the chase and the townsfolk think he might be dead, they plan to string them both up. Of course, a black man ran that risk anyway, as did any white man who was with him. Mac, played by Claude Akins, is a mean bastard and can't wait to see them hang, but Big Sam, who's given a lot of depth by Lon Chaney Jr., must think lynching is just plain wrong because he puts a stop to it. Then dares everyone else to try something. No one has enough courage to step up, except for one guy who seems willing to burn their eyes out when challenged to do so, with a torch. But Big Sam punches him out. If that was meant to be even just a little funny, then job well done. Big Sam's plan is to take them back to the prison in the morning. I don't want to say hero, but, well, Sam is a hero for treating both men like human beings. This is a perfect time for Cullen to sing his sewing machine song while the guys are tied to a pole. He started the movie by singing, he'll end it by singing, and here's some warbling right smack in the middle of the movie too. Joker reveals he saw lynching once, and you can tell he's afraid of it happening to him. Big Sam comes in and cuts them loose at this point. He's got scars from being shackled to the wrist himself. Chaney had such a soulful face here, and he says, "Run, chicken, run," as the guys gallop away. Well, it had to happen, but they finally start to punch each other. Joker gets 2 face shots in before Cullen fights back. Poitier is so well known for slapping a man in the face in the Heat of the Night 9 years later, but he sticks to body blows in this movie. And the fight is pretty vivid. For a mid-50s Hollywood movie, it didn't seem stagey or phony at all. They're ready to strangle each other using the chain until a boy comes by with a gun and makes them stop. I almost wish one of them had killed the other one just for the sake of what do you do now, dragging around this body that you're chained to, a la Greed. Because Cullen had swatted the kid, Billy, and caused him to hit his head on a rock, Noah feels guilty and takes the punk home to his mother. She's played by Kara Williams, who got that Oscar nomination without even having a name. She's credited only as Billy's mother. This movie badly fails the Bechdel test. I'm going to call her Kara from now on, though, rather than Billy's mother, so Kara has the hots for Joker immediately. Tony Curtis was a beautiful man, but he's a dirty, unshaven, sickly convict. I guess Kara either likes bad boys who bust out of prison, or she doesn't see many men, good or bad, these days. It's probably that one. Maybe the bad boy thing, too. Bev and I covered Out of Sight earlier this week, where the lady heroine is into the bad boys. Also escaped criminals. Maybe I'm racist, or maybe it's just Curtis's thick Brooklyn accent, but I swear to God, I always thought he was saying colored, not Cullen, at least until I saw the credits on the IMDb and found out how wrong I was. Well, I wasn't that far off. This guy was already using worse expressions for his black shacklemate, but you have to know he would call Noah colored if it suited him. Anyway, he rarely calls Noah by his last name until this scene, where they eat at Kara's. With about half an hour left in the movie, Billy brings the tools they need and they finally break out of the chain, although Joker immediately collapses because he's sick from his infection. The posse comes across Mac and Big Sam and the gang in that town, but everybody stonewalls Max during the questioning. They don't fold under questioning. The women were sent away that night, so they really didn't see anything anyway, but Sam plays super dumb because we know just how involved he was in them getting away. This is one of the best scenes Bickel has in the whole movie. Whenever they cut to the posse, it's good filmmaking, yes, but I just wanted to get back to the 2 main guys and their story. In this scene, though, I liked what was going on. Max would never say it, but I think he appreciates how the townspeople, especially Big Sam, are not ratting out the underdog criminals or escapees. I think these guys did the things they're in jail for, incidentally. I think that's supposed to be the case. Well, then again, Poitier talks about how he defended his property, and so he was railroaded. Okay, yeah. My strong preference for Poitier and Curtis over the posse scenes is not how I felt about The Fugitive, incidentally. Harrison Ford is great in that movie, but Tommy Lee Jones and his cohorts are more fun, and Jones was so good, he won an Oscar for that performance. That's a great balance there, better than in this movie, although this movie's fine, just that's better. So Cullen falls asleep at the table in Kara's house, and she manages to sneak the gun away from him, but she's too gaga for Joker to go for help or to put bullets in Cullen's back. We get another long oneer as she and Joker talk quietly about her life, her man who RUNNOFT'd, and they also talk about what Joker wants out of life. You can see the vulnerability and the softness in this man when he talks to her. This was probably the scene that clinched Curtis's Oscar nomination. Same for Williams. He shows some of that vulnerability during the movie talking to Cullen, but men, especially in the 50s, just weren't supposed to show any cracks in their proper toughness, even more so when the other guy in the equation is black. This scene ends when it's implied that Joker, who's still sick and has an infection, mind you, gets it on with Kara. I guess they're quiet lovers because they don't wake up Cullen, who's only a few feet away, fast asleep at the kitchen table, and Billy is somewhere there too. Sex and a bandage must work wonders because Joker's a new man in the morning. So good lovin', some TLC in his wrist, and, well, the plot, most of all, cure our hero. Kara reveals that she has a car and wants to get out, get anywhere, get all the way to the FBI. Okay, not the FBI, but get out and get anywhere with Joker. She seems fine with leaving her son nearby with people in her family, and then I guess spending the rest of her life with a wanted man who she met just yesterday? It's telling that this supposedly nice woman is more than fine with ditching Cullen, but Joker doesn't want to. He's right that them splitting up gives them both more of a chance than sticking together would. The posse is looking for two men chained together, not a solo black man or a white man with a woman and a kid. Old Johnny JJ doesn't seem convinced that he actually wants to go off with Kara, though, rather than sticking with Cullen, or at least bringing his black compatriot, maybe at this point friend, along for the ride. Kara fixes Cullen some sandwiches and some cigarettes, and he's off with a reluctant "so long" from Joker. By the way, when Poitier comes out to the garage during the earlier part of this conversation and is framed in the car's window, but Poitier himself is not on screen, I had to tip my cap. Kramer did a very fine job of placing his camera in interesting places throughout the picture, and that's a great one right there. So after Cullen is split with his lunch, his cigs, and, well, pretty much nothing else, Joker wonders what the man will do to Cullen if they catch him. But Kara says that the black man will never get out of the swamp. She's basically using him as bait. The cops will go after the black man on the run and give the two of them more of a chance to drive away. We could tell she was racist in the way she looked at Cullen right off the bat and didn't want to feed him until Joker demanded that she did, but this proves just how bigoted she is. Joker is mad at her, partly because she comes on so strong about their future together. Considering she barely knows him, it's hard to blame him. He's only been out of prison for a few days, lady. Give him some room to breathe. Anyway, the implication is also that Joker realizes that the black man knew and understand John Jackson far better than Kara does, or maybe ever will. Billy impulsively shoots Joker in the shoulder on his way out the door, defending his mother, adding to Joker's physical woes. How is this guy able to run through a swamp after all he's been through? Now shot, too. Well, if you believe some of the things I read online, it's because he misses his man and he's got to be with the man he loves. Joker somehow finds Cullen out in the swamp. Maybe hollering for him so much helped. One of my least favorite moments of Kramer attempting some lyricism is right here, when Cullen says Joker is dragging on the chain while the white man is just sitting on the stump and suffering. This "don't break the chain" theme will come back again soon. Joker is inspired by his, can we say friends, encouragement, and they trudge through the water side by side. I think that's a poster shot as well. It's a nice idea that the non-existent chain can't be broken. I just never really bought it the way they did it. Maybe if Poitier didn't literally say the line, a simple gesture might have worked better. The guys try to get on a moving train, and Cullen does, but the sickly, wounded Joker just doesn't have enough left to make it. I never got why Cullen would pitch himself off the train when he realized Joker's going to fail and miss the train. Yes, Noah appreciates the loyalty Joker showed in going after him on the swamp, probably saving his life by doing it, and maybe they really are gay, but, well, maybe I believe it more than I'm talking it out now. Still, though, if I care about my friend and I want him to survive, then I can live with him leaving me behind under these circumstances. Anyway, they don't need to cuddle anymore now that the chain is off their wrists, but Cullen gets behind the exhausted Joker and cradles him all the same, as he had done earlier when they had no choice because they were right beside each other and chained up. This time when they share a cigarette, Joker doesn't wipe it off first like he had done earlier, so he won't get Cullen's color. This development was more subtle than some other things, including that, "You're pulling on the chain, man." But that's when Max finds them and the movie ends. We know the sheriff isn't going to kill them on the spot or lynch them, but what will happen to them? They're going to get one long extended sentence at the very least. And Poitier goes out defiant, singing his song for the third time in this movie, and thus the Defiant Ones comes to an end. So the cast. Bev and I saw Poitier in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which Kramer directed and produced, and In the Heat of the Night. Those two podcasts are way back in our catalog in the fall of 2014. Poitier was nearly 95 when he died just over a year ago on January 6th, 2022. 2022? The poor guy had heart failure, dementia, and prostate cancer. Yikes. There's a documentary about Poitier on Apple TV+, which I watched right before we canceled Apple TV+. If you pay for that service, overpay, then check it out. We have previously reviewed Sweet Smell of Success, Some Like It Hot, Spartacus. Tony Curtis, of course, is in all of those, in major roles especially, Sweet Smell and Some Like It Hot. It's odd that he's called Joker because he isn't funny in this at all. He was in Some Like It Hot, yes, but he's got less of a sense of humor in the Defiant Ones than the man who says he spent his life being angry does. A lot of big stars turned down playing this character. Apparently we could have had Sammy Davis Jr. and Elvis in this movie, although I'm not complaining about the final casting choices at all. I think Poitier and Curtis were very worthy of those Oscar nominations. David Niven beat out both of them, though, along with Paul Newman in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Spencer Tracy in the crappy, God I hated it, The Old Man and the Sea. Whether you liked all those movies or not, that's a heavyweight group of actors. Theodore Bickel underplays Max pretty nicely. He was in The African Queen with Bogey and Hepburn 7 years before this, and then My Fair Lady 6 years after this. We've covered those. Cara Williams had an uncredited role as a secretary in Laura, and not much else that stood out on her IMDb profile. We covered Laura. Charles McGraw, who plays Captain Gibbons, went on to be in Spartacus with Curtis. I am Spartacus. And then a few years after that, he worked for Hitchcock in The Birds. Lon Chaney Jr. had been in High Noon a few years earlier, which of course was made, or at least produced, by Stanley Kramer. And even though he played Dracula and the Mummy at different times, he's best known for playing the Wolfman. For such a big man, and also the son of a more famous actor, he was pretty good at the thespian thing himself. Very likable in this, in The Wolfman, when he plays just the regular human. Claude Akins had 230 plus credits, including Rio Bravo, which we've covered, and he was uncredited in From Here to Eternity, which we've covered, and that was his debut. And Carl Switzer, i.e. Alfalfa from Our Gang, was in his final movie here. If you watched It's Wonderful Life last month, as I did, then you saw him try to humiliate George Bailey by dumping him in the pool at the high school, until it backfired and everybody, including him, that is, Carl Switzer, joined in the wet fun. And by the way, if I didn't say this on the It's a Wonderful Life podcast we did so many years ago, one of my favorite moments in that movie is when they do go in the pool and you see George and Mary still dancing. George will not be humiliated. He's going to dance anyway when he's in the water. As for the man who made all this possible, Stanley Kramer, he was the issues filmmaker of his era. He was Spike Lee and Oliver Stone rolled into one guy. We covered him back in fall 2014 when we looked at Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Kramer made plenty of other pictures with Spencer Tracy beyond that, including Judgment at Nuremberg and It's a Mad, 400 Mads world. Stan the Man also produced High Noon, as I said, and he produced most of the movies he directed for that matter. This was a Kurt Lee production, which means that Tony Curtis and his wife Janet Leigh were executive producers. There's quite a legacy when you talk about references to this movie and other things that came later. The two most clear examples are the TV movie in 1986 with Carl Weathers and Robert Urich. It was also turned into a big screen film, which had the same concept but a different title. That was Fled, that mid-90s box office failure that starred Lawrence Fishburne and Stephen Baldwin. I do like the Defiant Ones, even though it doesn't have quite the same oomph with me it once did. I don't love the posse scenes, I don't love the don't break the chain line in the swamp, and I don't really buy that Cullen would dive off the train at the end, although I might have convinced myself a little bit more talking it out now. I also don't love Poitier's shrieky singing. Well, maybe not shrieky, but not very good singing. Even though, beyond that, he proved yet again how powerful an actor he was, almost always. It's not like every movie he made was about race, but his best ones tended to be. And he was usually the strongest parts of those, even if people like Rod Steiger, Katharine Hepburn, and Shelley Winters won Oscars in films where he didn't. And Tony Curtis is fantastic in this. I liked him more this time than I ever had before. I think he does a really good job in this, and this was his epic run. He was already such a big star, and then these 4 or 5 years in a row, excellent stuff, and I've talked about the movies a few times already. Oh, I just remembered that we have covered one of Poitier's titles since 2014. Bev and I reviewed Blackboard Jungle in 2016. That movie had its weaknesses, but Poitier certainly wasn't one of them. Okay, whether you think I nailed it with this review or whether you think I failed badly, you can fire off an angry email. HaveYouEverSeenPodcast@gmail.com, one big word. And you could tweet me, Bev, both of us, one of us. I'm at MovieFiend51, and she's at Bev Ellis Ellis. Follow us, write a comment, like, subscribe, all that noise. This episode will eventually go up on YouTube, probably later today. It'll just be this episode with our logo running the whole time. If you type in at HYES Ellis in your browser, you'll be sent to our new homepage on YouTube. And don't forget about our kindly sponsor. Go to sparkplug.coffee/HYES and use our promo code to snag a sensational 20% discount. I'll be posting another solo show in 2 weeks. I haven't seen this one in probably 20 years, so there's no theme to this one either that I'm aware of, other than that we've never covered a Mae West flick. And I'll rectify that by coming up sometime and seeing her on the 27th, when I review She Done Him Wrong. In 3 days, this podcast will be back to its typical husband and wife format. We'll be continuing the month of Bev with a title that has absolutely nothing to do with 50s race relations or with Martin Luther King Day, but has plenty to do with marriage relations. We'll be talking about Richard Linklater's third in the Before series, Before Midnight. So that's it. Thanks for listening or watching our logo on YouTube. Have a great weekend and a, respectful Martin Luther King Day. See you soon, you crazy kids. And